Woo! What's up, big brains? In this video, we're going to be covering all of the high-yield essentials when it comes to organelles. Now, bear in mind, this is a higher-level exclusive video, so if you have not yet, make sure to also check out our previous video on organelles and compartmentalization. Now, sometimes, as a brain, you might feel like you're juggling biology content and you just lose control. And I'm here to tell you, in times like those, just head over to teachmebio.org and get access to our premium resources, and all of your control will be regained. Now, without further ado, let's just get started with this video. Now, straight off the bat, I just want to clarify something real quick. In this video, we're going to cover these specific organelles. And you may be confused, be like, but in A2.2, we learned all about organelles and kind of what their jobs are. You're right. I also don't entirely see the point of this specific chapter because all of these organelles you kind of covered in A2.2, and you will learn more about these specific organelles in their own separate chapters. So it is a bit of a weird one, I agree, but we'll cover what the book wants you to know regardless for this chapter. So let's go ahead and start here with the nucleus. We have zoomed into the cell here. We can see the nucleus, the mitochondria, some ribosomes, the Golgi apparatus, and we can also see the chloroplast. Now remember, chloroplast is a special organelle only found in plant cells. That's why I'm showing you a little bit of a plant cell here with the chloroplast that exclusively belongs to plant cells, not animal cells, right? Now, the nucleus, we know, is the site for DNA storage, and there are specific structures that I want to remind you of. Number one here, the space inside the nucleus, where all of the molecules and enzymes float around, is called the nucleoplasm. And these molecules and enzymes, one of their specific jobs, will be related to DNA replication and also transcription. That is one of the steps involved in protein synthesis. Now, again, if you don't know what the heck that is, do not worry. You will learn all about the nucleus and its role in terms of DNA replication in D1.1, and you'll learn all about its role with regards to transcription and translation in D1.2. So again, it's just a little bit of a reminder here in this chapter. Now, the nuclear membrane is made up of two layers, so we call it a nuclear envelope, the inner membrane and the outer membrane. Now, the outer membrane is actually going to be directly connected to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. You can see the rough endoplasmic reticulum is a direct extension of the outer membrane of the nuclear envelope. Now, the inner membrane serves a different role. It's going to interact with the DNA and internal components of the nucleus itself. No more detail required for you guys. Now, notice how the nuclear envelope has little holes in them. We call these nuclear pores, and it really just serves a transport role for molecules to transport in and out of the nucleus. Now, for example, in the context of transcription, which you'll learn about in D1.2, a molecule called mRNA will be made in the nucleus and then exported out of the nucleus towards a ribosome. Another example could be ribosomes. You know, ribosomes are made by this guy called a nucleolus. This is the site of ribosome production. Now, ribosomes, once they're made here, will be sent out of the nucleus via these nuclear pores, and they'll go ahead and do their own specific job. So that's what you should know a little bit about the nucleus. Next up, we're going to talk about ribosomes. These are little organelles responsible for making proteins. And again, you will learn all about this in D1.2. So if you don't know what this means, do not worry. Now, what you should know is that there are two kinds of ribosomes. Some ribosomes are free-floating in the cytoplasm. They're kind of everywhere. And other ribosomes are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, as you can see here. So in this case, they are either free or bound. These guys all over the place, they are considered free ribosomes. And these on the RER, they are considered bound ribosomes. Now the ribosomes on the rough ER, the bound ones, they are responsible for making proteins that are destined for use outside the cell or part of the main membrane. The other kind of ribosomes, the free ones in the cytoplasm, they are responsible for making proteins for use inside the cell. That's very interesting, right? So bear this idea in your mind. Now, next we have the Golgi apparatus. Now, this organelle is going to receive little bags, little packages containing things, one of which is proteins. Remember proteins? They're made by these ribosomes. Now, these proteins, this may not be the final form. We need the Golgi to make some modifications to this protein. So this vesicle, this bag, will fuse with the Golgi, releasing these proteins into these spaces, and the Golgi will go ahead and do its thing. And one of those things is actually to add little carbohydrate groups to these proteins. What do I mean? Take a look. There's the protein, but now it has these carbohydrate groups attached to it. And the purpose of this is one of two things. These carbohydrate groups can either be a little label telling this protein where in the heck it needs to go next, or these carbohydrate chains can actually be part of the function of the protein itself. And this process of adding these carbohydrate groups is called glycosylation. So that's the key word you need to drill into your big brain. Next up, we have the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Let's slice it open to see what's going on and label a bunch of stuffs. Straight off the bat, this organelle is responsible for cell respiration. That is the process of making chemical energy, also known as ATP, cell money, by breaking down things like glucose. It is a crazy complicated process, and you will learn all about this in C1.2, so you're not supposed to get it right now. But let's go ahead and label a few structures. Just know each of these structures of the mitochondria is specific for something related to cell respiration. Firstly, the outer membrane here. Its whole job is to separate what's inside the mitochondria from the rest of the cell. The inner membrane contains a bunch of proteins and molecules that is going to be involved in the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis during cell respiration. Now notice there's a space in between the outer membrane and the inner membrane called the intermembrane space. I know, a very creative name. In here, this space is super tiny, which allows for little protons to build up very quickly. And this is so important when it comes to chemiosmosis. Of course, right now your brain is like, what is going on? Don't worry, it'll make sense in this chapter. It should not make sense right now. Now the last one here that I want to mention is this inner membrane. You'll notice that it actually folds like this. We call these little folds cristae. And the reason for these folds is to increase the surface area of the inner membrane. If these folds didn't exist, the total amount of inner membrane would be far less, right? So the purpose is to increase the amount of inner membrane that there is because a lot of reactions will happen in the inner membrane. So because of more folding, a lot more of those reactions can happen than without those foldings, specifically during oxidative phosphorylation. Now lastly, we have the matrix. This is a little fluid inside the cell that contains all the enzymes and molecules responsible for something called the Krebs cycle, which happens during cell respiration. And again, you'll be totally boggled right now, but don't worry, this will all make sense in C1.2. Next up, we have this man right here, the chloroplast, found in plant cells. Let's slice it open. Wow, it's pretty complicated. This chloroplast is responsible for doing what we call photosynthesis. And just like with cell respiration, there's a whole separate chapter where you'll learn all of this in detail, C1.3. So if you don't get what's going on, it's not your fault, guys. In a nutshell, the chloroplast will use sunlight and a bunch of other stuff to make things like glucose, cell food. It's perfect. Now, each of these structures will have its own specific job when it comes to photosynthesis. The outer and inner membrane is responsible for separating what's inside the chloroplast from the rest of the cell. These little discs here, there's so many of them, they're called thylakoids, and this is where sunlight is absorbed for some specific job during photosynthesis. And there's so many of them, trying to absorb as much light as possible. A stack of these thylakoids, we call them granum. Now, there's the space inside the chloroplast containing a bunch of fluid and molecules and enzymes called the stroma, responsible for the Calvin cycle. So don't worry if you don't get what's going on. You'll learn all about this in C1.3 photosynthesis. All right, we covered a bunch of stuff. We have one more teeny tiny thing to talk about, vesicles, and a very specific scenario involving vesicles. You know, our cell sometimes needs to bring things in and get rid of things. Here we have the inside of the cell, and here we have the outside of the cell. Now, there are many different ways of bringing things in and sending things out. We learn about that in membrane transport in detail once again. Here, I want to talk about a very specific scenario called receptor-mediated endocytosis. What the heck is this? Let's make it clear. Here we have a membrane, and inside the membrane, we have these little molecules called receptors, and their whole job is to bind to something else. Now, let's say these receptors, their job is to bind specifically to this blue molecule. Now let's say this cell really needs this blue molecule. That is why they have these receptors to bind to these blue molecules so that this cell can bring it into the cell. But the question is, how do we bring this blue molecule into the cell? Let me show you. What's going to happen is there's a little protein called clathrin, let's say this blue thing. it's going to go ahead and bind to these receptors from the inside of the cell. And once it bound to these green receptors, it's going to start folding into the C sort of shape. And as it does that, it causes the plasma membrane, the cell membrane, to fold as well. Now remember, these blue molecules are now bounded to these receptors, so they're not going anywhere. Now, if this process continues, we will eventually fold it so much that this guy will pinch off in the form of a little bag called a vesicle. Now, here we have it, our little molecules inside the cell. It's pretty cool. This is called receptor-mediated endocytosis because we are carrying out the process of endocytosis, bringing something into the cell as a vesicle, but we depended on a receptor to bind to a very specific molecule that this specific cell needs right now. So bear in mind, different cells will have different receptors to bind to different molecules that they need to bring into this specific cell. It's a very cool process. Now guys, that is it for this video. I really hope it was useful. I hope we got something into your big brains, and we will see you in the next one.